Extreme heat and humidity will spawn significant severe weather across the United States over the next few days. That will cause damaging winds, large hail, tornadoes, and flooding rains. And I am here to talk about the forecast for your area in this video. So make sure to subscribe to the channel. We do straightforward, reliable, accurate weather coverage across southern Canada, the United States, and the tropics daily on the channel. We'll have another video out for you tomorrow. Like the video, give it a thumbs up, especially if you enjoy it throughout, and also share it with a friend, family member, and on social media. I definitely do appreciate it. Let's look at our temperatures that we saw this afternoon for your Sunday afternoon, and we saw a lot of triple digits here across portions of the Central Plains. Widespread record highs into the triple digits from Florida into coastal Georgia, South Carolina, especially the low country of South Carolina, and then up into eastern North Carolina this afternoon. And even so, where you see the upper 80s, low 90s, don't let that fool you. Those heat index values are over 100 degrees in places like Chicago, Indianapolis, and Detroit this afternoon as well. Now, this is contributing to a threat for significant severe weather, an upgrade. So a quick escalation of the severe weather threat for tonight. An orange area where several severe thunderstorms are likely from eastern South Dakota into south central Minnesota, including the Twin Cities area, where you see the yellow into northern Wisconsin, the western UP of Michigan, stretching back into portions of South Dakota. That's where scattered severe thunderstorms are possible. And then in the dark green surrounding that across much of the upper Midwest, northern plains, all the way back into North Dakota and Montana, that's where isolated severe thunderstorms are possible. We also are monitoring some severe storms in the mid-Atlantic as well that are isolated to scattered and coverage. Here are the hazards these storms could bring to the table here this evening and overnight. Damaging straight line winds in excess of 70 miles per hour will be possible across south central Minnesota and eastern South Dakota. That is enough to topple over trees and knock down some power lines, which could knock out your power. So definitely make sure to have many ways to receive severe weather watches and warnings, including a NOAA weather radio here tonight. Significant hail as those initial storms develop from eastern South Dakota into western Minnesota. Could be up to baseball size. There's plenty of storm energy out here to support that. So be watching out for that. Park your cars in a carport or in a garage to alleviate the threat of hail on your car. And there's a formidable tornado threat. In the brown, that's a 5% chance of tornadoes, including the Twin Cities and central Minnesota, up here toward the Duluth area. And then in the green, that's a 2% chance of tornadoes stretching from Lake Superior and the western upper peninsula of Michigan all the way back into South Dakota here within a 25-mile radius of any given point in or around this area. It doesn't stop there. More severe weather expected to start the work week on Monday, July 28th. In yellow from central Montana all the way to southwest Wisconsin, that is scattered severe thunderstorms that will be possible. And same thing in the dark green, where isolated severe thunderstorms will be possible from northern Illinois all the way back there into western Montana. And again, significant damaging winds upwards to 80 miles per hour may be possible there from South Dakota into southern Minnesota and far northern Iowa, in addition to some quarter to even upwards to golf ball size hail there on Monday. And then there's a tornado threat, again, in similar areas as tonight, central and eastern South Dakota and into southern Minnesota, northwestern Iowa, again within a 25-mile radius of any given point in or around this area. There's a 2% chance of tornadoes on Monday. Let's break it down for you. We're going to start with the central U.S. We'll go over to the eastern U.S. and then we'll go to the western U.S. over the next 48 hours. We're going to go over the next 2 days. Here at 6 o'clock, we are awaiting the arrival of a cold front, and that will be the forcing mechanism to get those thunderstorms to grow very quickly this evening. And as it does so, we're going to see explosive storm development here very soon, 7, 8 o'clock this evening. Initial storms will be supercellular. Those are the storms that could produce those tornadoes and the destructive hail up to baseball size. Eventually, those storms will congeal into a cluster or a complex, as you probably heard it before, and that's where we're going to see a very strong push of wind here with some very heavy rain. Winds could be in excess of 70 miles per hour for portions there of south central Minnesota. Moving into the La Crosse area by about 3 o'clock in the morning, Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, and Waterloo, Iowa. And then by the time we get to daybreak on Monday, Rockford, Illinois, Davenport over there toward Milwaukee, we'll be seeing a weakening line, but still enough enough to pack a punch. 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts still possible with this. Blinding rain, also some smaller hail, and of course some cloud to ground lightning to start your Monday. And then as we go through the day, we're going to see another cluster moving up here into North Dakota by midday Monday. That will be the next disturbance that will kick off our storms Monday afternoon, and these could be even more feisty than the ones we have tonight, producing widespread wind damage, potentially over 80 miles per hour across South Dakota into southern Minnesota, in addition to blinding rainfall, frequent lightning, and hail. So we're going to be watching out for that. And then as we go into Tuesday morning, similar areas, northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, seeing a weakening line of storms moving into your area. Looking here at the wind threat, like we mentioned, it's going to be very significant here this evening. Some of these storms will be capable of producing winds of 70, perhaps up to as high as 75 miles per hour. So this is a concern for La Crosse, Rochester, down into the Madison area, Stevens Point, down into Prairie du Chien, and then over into Iowa. So we're talking north of Des Moines, Waterloo, over here toward Elkader, and even the Dubuque area. We're going to be keeping a very close eye on that. Weakening as it hits the I-80 corridor by Monday morning by 9 a.m., and then we're going to see a second line of storms pushing through. This one could be more feisty tomorrow evening, which could be producing winds upwards to 80, even 90 miles per hour, which could cause widespread wind damage and potentially even knock out some power to many folks. This is also going to produce a lot of rainfall, high moisture content in the atmosphere, widespread 2 to 3 inches of rain expected across the majority of southern Minnesota, moving into northeastern Iowa and southwest Wisconsin. So make sure if you're in any of these areas that I just mentioned, southern Minnesota, northeast Iowa, southwest Wisconsin, that you have an action plan in case flash flood warnings are issued, and go to the highest floor of your home that you can in case those are issued. As we look at the eastern U.S., scattered thunderstorms about the Ohio River Valley over here into the mid-Atlantic. A few of these are severe with some strong wind gusts and hail. Once the sun sets this evening, the storm energy will go down, and the coverage and intensity of these storms in suit will go down as well. As we start the day on Monday, very quiet here. We're going to start to see another disturbance moving in. A little bit less coverage tomorrow of storms than today, but there still will be storms around from the Great Lakes all the way down into Florida. And a couple of these could produce some stronger winds. The thing about tomorrow is these storms will be moving very slowly. Storm motions anywhere from 5 to as much as 15 miles per hour. So any storm that, moves over your house or your neighborhood tomorrow in the eastern U.S. could be raining itself out pretty decently as we go through the afternoon and evening. But again, tomorrow evening, once the sun sets, the instability goes down, and so does the coverage and intensity of those storms. It's kind of one of those popcorn type setups with storms. So you get a storm down the road 30 miles, you could get rained on an inch or two of rain, and then you go the opposite direction 30 miles, you might not even get a drop of rain. That's kind of what we're looking at here in the eastern U.S. between now and Tuesday, July 29th. Western U.S., we got some storms here this evening into western Montana, into central Idaho, and southeastern Oregon. That will continue over the next few hours. Showers and storms overnight moving more into Montana. Starting the day tomorrow, we're going to see some of those storms moving into eastern Montana, but by the afternoon, we're going to activate the storms again across portions of central and western parts of Montana, central and northern Idaho, and back into Oregon, where a few of these storms could be capable of some smaller hailstones. We'll be keeping a very close eye on that. Overall, heaviest rains are expected in central Montana, where we could be seeing upwards to an inch of rain with some of these storms just between now and Tuesday, July 29th. Now, looking here at Tuesday, July 29th, isolated severe thunderstorms at least will be possible. I do expect an upgrade to a scattered threat for severe weather somewhere in Iowa or northern Illinois, as some of the latest guidance is showing that. So here's Tuesday morning. Monday night storms is going to do a number on the storm energy, but as we go through Tuesday, that heat, that humidity will be building once again, instability values going up to 4 or even 5,000 joules per kilogram by Tuesday late afternoon, early evening, and then another storm complex will get rid of that storm energy. And that storm complex that we see as we go into Tuesday afternoon could pack a punch again with some straight line damaging winds, this time across southern Wisconsin, eastern Iowa, and northern Illinois. So we're talking Cedar Rapids, the Clinton area down toward Davenport, Rockford, Waukegan, Chicago, and Milwaukee, even into the Janesville, Monroe area as well. And that will be pushing further to the south with more rain coming in further to the west, including the Kansas City area, Omaha, and Des Moines going into Wednesday morning. And this could be a nice rainfall producer here across multiple states. Tuesday into Wednesday, Nebraska, Iowa, northern Illinois, northern Kansas, and northern Missouri getting potentially some pockets of over 2 inches of rain just within that 24-hour period. Now, looking here at the big ridge of high pressure that is giving us all of our heat and humidity that is anchored across the south central U.S. here as we go into early on this week, powerful cold front will be getting rid of the heat, and the humidity will be scoured out as well by later in the week. So here we start Monday, tomorrow, and start the work week. Gonna be a hot one out there, so make sure you are hydrated, especially if your job takes you outdoors, because it's going to be hot out there. Widespread triple digits in the Central Plains, but there's the cool front in North Dakota. We're only be able to muster the mid-70s on Monday. 70-degree line shifts a little bit further to the south on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Look at Friday, folks. I mean, if you live in the north central and northeast U.S., consider yourselves lucky, because we're going to be seeing lower humidity, and we're going to be seeing cooler temperatures in the 70s. The heat will be squashed down to the south toward the Gulf Coast. Now, looking at overnight lows before we get there, Tuesday morning is going to be a very humid morning where lows could barely get below 80 degrees. And we're seeing widespread record warm lows from the Ohio Valley into the southeast here to start the day on Tuesday. Record warm lows continue into Wednesday morning and Thursday before we start to see those 40s and 50s for overnight lows crack open the windows in the north central U.S., the northeast, as we go into the upcoming weekend. Now, in that transition, the cold front will continue to bring some showers and storms to the U.S. on Wednesday and Thursday as well, from portions of the Central Plains into the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic, so be watching out for some heavy rain producers. A few strong storms here and there, nothing too terribly organized as far as severe weather is concerned by the time we get to late in the week. But there could still be some smaller hail and some gustier winds with those storms. Here's the rainfall, plentiful across the southeast. So we're going to get a nice drink of water here across Tennessee, for example, Mississippi, Virginia, North and South Carolina and Georgia, Alabama. A lot of these areas that have been hot for so long are going to get some nice rainfall, around an inch or two, as we go through the upcoming week ahead, especially later on in the week. Long-range forecast calls for the second week of August. Big Ridge is going to anchor itself now across the desert southwest, and that is going to bring some high heat, even abnormally hot weather across the western U.S. than what you would typically see in the second week of August, leaning normal to below normal with our temperatures in the east, and that all has to do with, again, the northwest flow becoming reestablished, bringing back those thunderstorm complexes and more heavy rain and severe weather events once we get into the second week of August. Let's turn over to the tropical weather update to end the video here. The National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida is not expecting tropical cyclone activity over the next 7 days, which is the next week, anywhere in the Atlantic Basin, including the Caribbean and the Gulf. And we look here at some of those probabilities of at least a tropical depression being realized, and it's really kind of dwindling in the main development region because of dry air. There is some interest there off the North Carolina coast as a cold front gets hung up on the coast there with a low pressure system developing later on in the week, and you can kind of see that here. The cold front moves south. We got a low pressure system really developing near the mid-Atlantic coast, and this could be enough to get a tropical depression, maybe even a tropical storm to develop here. There's some warmer waters in the northwest Atlantic, so that's something to keep an eye on, but this should be moving away from North America and the United States as we go into next weekend. The dry air for the rest of the Atlantic Basin is really suppressing a lot of the activity out here. I do foresee that continuing through the first at least week of August, maybe even beyond that, as the Saharan dust from Africa continues to move westward in waves and produces a lot of dry air, which hurricanes do not like. Looking here at the East Pacific, we are also keeping tabs on several systems here. 60% chance in orange there just off the Mexico coast, and a 30% chance just to the west of there. And then we have Tropical Depression 1C, which is just to the south of Hawaii, which is going to become a tropical storm any moment, as this is at maximum sustained winds of 35 miles an hour. Movement is west at 12 miles per hour. Will remain a tropical storm through Thursday, and then a post-tropical cyclone by the time we get to the end of the week there on Friday. And you can see a lot of these systems continue to move westward, and there's going to be a very active period here in the East Pacific. That is for sure. And any interest near Hawaii, if you have a vacation that takes you out to the Big Island, it looks like the main grasp of this system will be well to the south of the Big Island. There could be some indirect impacts as far as rip currents and rough surf goes. Other than that, we aren't seeing any really heavy rain bands or anything like that through the end of July. Well, if you enjoyed my forecast, this is straightforward, reliable, accurate weather coverage across southern Canada, the United States, and the tropics. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. We do daily weather forecast videos here. We're going to have another video forecast out for you tomorrow. Like the video if you enjoyed this one, and also share it with a friend, family member, and on social media. It helps to get the word out and vital information out to as many people as possible. If you have any comments, questions, and concerns, make sure to jot that down in the comment section down below this video. I'm here 24/7, all day, all night to answer any and all questions, comments, and concerns that you may have. Thank you all for watching. Thanks for all your support. It's very much appreciated, and I'll see you all in the next video.